wow, a Christian movie that's actually a movie and not a sermon? A Christian movie that has good actors and writers? A movie that just happens to be about Christians being kind to one another and doing something so miraculous that you wish there was a God? I'm checking it out. It's not rocket science, guys. So, Ordinary Angels is a pretty predictable, corny, and occasionally preachy Christian film, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it or even tear up near the end, and that's high praise coming from me because I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. And not only does this movie not set out to do so, the movie's not going to change your mind on whether or not God exists. People who will inevitably hate or just skip this movie entirely just because it portrays Christians in a good way are going to be so cynical and say, yeah, well, forget about war-torn kids in the Middle East, starving Africans, or altar boys. Let's just focus on this one little girl. And not gonna lie, there were a couple scenes not revolving around the little girl that made me think the exact same thing, but because this is a true story about people who did work their ass off in order to make miracle after miracle for this one girl, drop everything they're doing and doing everything they can just out of the kindness of their hearts, in a day and age where the real world and fictional worlds are just so divisive, misanthropic, one-sided, just seeing a movie about people coming together and doing an act of goodwill, it's just so refreshing, such a good change of pace, and a great feeling to watch a movie like that in a theater. Now, as I predicted, thankfully, this is a movie that has actual actors, not the local community theater with a camcorder. But I was still amazed by the fact that these actors really give a lot of realistic and surprisingly subdued performances. I don't think Hilary Swank is the heart of the movie like a lot of critics are already saying, but at the same time, she hasn't been this good in fucking years. She has genuine chemistry with this family, and you really want to root for this girl to do everything she can in order to raise money, have other people provide for this one family. And what really took me off guard was that even though this movie is about learning how to rely on the kindness of strangers in the most desperate of times, the script's actually not afraid to call her out for doing occasional acts of kindness just in order to make her feel better about herself. It's like that Avenue Q song, every time you do a good deed, you're also serving your own needs, and she does want this girl to live. There's absolutely no doubt about it, but when you do learn her backstory, it does make sense why she would do this purely just for the sake of trying to redeem herself for past sins that are completely irrelevant to this one family. But by far, the best part of this movie, anytime I had a smile on my face or was actually feeling any emotion, was from Alan Ritchson. He is absolutely fantastic and proves that he's not just a stone-cold brute or a mighty seaman. I'm sorry, but looking at that costume, I just have to fucking say it. He is so believable and gives a lot of raw emotion with very little when he's trying to be this warm, loving dad while also trying to pay the bills and not think about the fact that he could lose his daughter at any given moment when he's already lost his wife, the one other person who can bear all of these responsibilities for him. And it also makes sense why he would start to act very stubborn, where after he has suffered all of this amount of pain and is starting to lose faith in people and just the world in general. That's one other thing that I really like about this movie. It's not so much about having faith in God as it is having faith in people, actually believing in the free will of others. When Swank does come in and starts to take in the reins from him, you can understand why he's actually being very stubborn about it, because not only is she offering to help when he didn't ask for it, but once in a while, she actually does things a lot better for him, and it makes him feel insecure and embarrassed because he's this daughter's father. It's his responsibility to bear, and if some complete stranger is doing a better job, it makes sense why he would be ashamed of that. Especially when she barges in uninvited half the time, which, I'll get into that later. And I do have to give credit to the two kids in this movie. I love that they were so sweet to watch on screen without ever being annoying or too cutesy. Especially, I'm gonna see, what's this girl's name? Emily Mitchell, as the daughter who could go at any moment. She knows that there's something wrong with her, but she doesn't know the full extent. So when she says something that makes everybody uncomfortable, but she's so nonchalant about it, it does genuinely hurt, because even her 8-year-old sister is grappling with the fact that she's already lost a mother and can lose the one other family member that she has a strong rapport with. And it makes you forget that the 8-year-old sister is in real life named Skywalker Hughes. Hughes, I felt, could have gotten like a couple more scenes as the older sister grappling with the fact that she could be an only child at any second, but she does get a solid moment here or two. Now, as much as I appreciate the more sentimental, optimistic tone and the actors giving in really good performances, what bogs down every Christian movie is the script, and unfortunately, there are still plenty of awkward moments, poorly written lines of dialogue, and while not as much preachy, one-sided lectures as I thought there would be, there are still a couple that are just really rough to sit through. Take for this one instance, not even 10 minutes in, when Swank goes to Alcoholics Anonymous for the first time, and the counselor says, "Is there anyone here who is here for the first time and would like to say something?" Literally everyone in the group looks at Swank. Because, you know, that would happen. Or would be very Christian. The first time that Swank and Ritchson actually meet, it's at his wife's funeral, and it's very uncomfortable because she sat for the entire service and introduced herself without even knowing them. And not gonna lie, at first I liked that she was completely honest about that, but there are so many times in the first half of the movie especially where she walks into the house uninvited, goes through their belongings, does all of these things that she didn't ask permission for, that she definitely would have said no to, that even when they conveniently work out in this family's favor, just come across as being so nosy and overly controlling. And I get that I get the point that they're trying to make. I mean, how could you not? But no matter how good her intentions are, even though the contributions that she does for this one little girl are too good to ignore, if you were in this family's position, wouldn't you ask what her angle or her catch is? Because they do make it clear that they are well aware that once in a while she does do random acts of kindness just for her own needs. And she's actually proven to be unreliable at a given point. There's that inevitable breaking point near the end of the movie where they start to give up and then they slowly rise when an opportunity knocks. And that's where her journey of alcoholism is as explored as it's ever gonna get. Like, I do give them credit that they slowly reveal pieces of her backstory one at a time as the movie progresses, but that being said, the second time that they meet, when she is technically invited to dinner without his permission, everyone, and I mean fucking everyone, should have just sat there and asked her, "Why are you doing this? What does this correlate to you?" And she just gives the cryptic, "You're not the only one who's dealt with this." And I'm just sitting there going, just blurt it out. If you're going to be a part of these people's lives, you have to be 100% transparent. And if for whatever reason this is how it played out in real life, that's just downright uncomfortable. But at the same time, it's nice to see a Christian movie that is just not being a sermon or a lecture. My children, if you'll turn to page 3 of your scripture that says every atheist is either a liar, a cheat, an idiot, and an asshole, and the exact same applies to every religion that's not ours, compared to us Christians who are infallible in every conceivable way. Unless you're a priest. It's just portraying Christians being kind to one another, rallying each other like the community that they're supposed to be, and I'm hoping that the theater nearby my house gets more of them. Judging by some of the trailers, it looks like we will. Whether you decide to go see it in a theater or wait for it on streaming, I'd recommend giving it a watch. Guys, thanks as always for watching. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what you thought of Ordinary Angels. Be sure to like and subscribe, and check me out on Patreon and buy me a coffee. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.